So eventually, if I get enough money, I can replace those that are missing with implants.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have bone to get implants.
Mm-hmm. I see the board's bone. Bone sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
So how's the jasmine tea?
Excellent.
That's good stuff.
It was on TV last night. I forget what the movie was. I think it was set back in. Let me think. It was set back in history. It was Marie Antoinette. It was Marie Antoinette, and
the new one with
Huh?
Kristen Dunst, or what's her name?
I don't know the names of the people. I don't know names of
Okay.
actresses and
Okay.
things.
Whatever.
So probably it looked pretty new. It's
Okay.
Marie Antoinette, and in pretty much the height of her.
Was it filmed at Versailles?
Yeah.
This one?
Look,
Okay, it was probably the new one.
Yeah, it had the mount.
Yeah,
it had the fountains of Versailles and stuff. Were and yeah, it did look like it was filmed at Versailles. And
Good place to film a movie.
and anyway, at one point they had tea. They were having tea, and they brought on a teapot like that, and they brought on the blooming teas, and they put it in there. They put the camera down on it. They watched it bloom open, and everybody went ooh, and she says it's sent from the Emperor of China. When she says we have tea and it's sent from the Emperor of China, and I said I bet it's from Wuyi Mountain, and the next thing that happened is they threw some of those in and into the water and watched them, and she says it's what is kind of tea do I say that is? Jasmine. She says it's jasmine tea. Really, and it was on. So I thought it was cool. We saw that on the movie last night. So see, tea fans, see the movie.
So I have a good feeling about 2008. I really, really do.
Do you?
For a wide variety of reasons. I mean,
Uh-huh.
not only is 2008 going to be interesting politically, but I just feel like 2008 is going to be generally positive all around. think
I must say
2008
that
is
a
gonna
good
be
feeling about 2008 can't be based on like the last 6 or 7 years.
I think this is going to be a good time. I think this is going to be an interesting time.
It just can't be any worse than it's been. It's been so bad.
That I think has a lot to do with it as well.
It has to be over. I think everybody is out there going, "Oh, this is finally open." Well, I hope it is. I really hope it is, because we can't take much more of this. Our psyches will become depressed. We'll be,
We'll secede from ourselves.
That's right. That's what's more likely to happen than seceding from the Union is individuals seceding from themselves and becoming depressed, committing suicide, or just failing to care anymore. And that's what happens. And you know what? The opposite of that, when you come out of an oppressed society and into a non-oppressed society, that's what causes renaissance in a society. Just like oppression causes depression and stuff in a society, then when a society comes out from under oppression, they go through a renaissance.
Well, actually, I hear the Renaissance of the 15th century Italy was caused by the Black Death. It was caused by the plague.
Yeah, it killed off all the oppressors.
Well, no, it's about population. It produced enough farmland that people had time to think, to stop farming long enough to think and do art stuff and stuff. And
because there were less people around that needed to be fed.
there was less competition for land.
So you would say
that gave people time to think, and then they had the Renaissance.
You would suggest a plague that would kill off 2/3 of the population or something as a means to Renaissance.
It's Plan B. It's a very distinct Plan B over after contraception.
Well, we had a nice
if contraception fails, then that's the sort of
we had a nice little
resort
Renaissance in the '60s that was just brought on by the discovery of LSD.
Yeah. Very big Renaissance, if I remember right.
Well, short-lived as it was, I must say, but it was. But boy, it kicked butt when it was going, didn't it? Okay. Here's Hey, here's for the acid of the 60s. He'll drink to the acid of the 60s.
Yes, here.
I will
You'll do
drink
that?
to the acid of the 60s.
Okay.
I will not drink to the acid of now, but I'll drink to the acid of the 60s,
All
which
right.
I've heard
Acid of the
good
60s.
stories about.
Yes.
I feel the need at this point to reiterate that I have not touched this stuff in more than a decade. So.
Oh, and I need to reiterate for someone, I'm not pro drug culture, though I am in the drug culture because I smoke herb. I'm pro choice, giving a person the right to make choices.
Right. Don't force anybody to smoke pot. That's what I say.
Yeah, I mean, adults should
How do you
have the
feel
right
on the
to make
marijuana
adult
subject? Have you ever
decisions
smoked any marijuana?
and not have the government
Yeah,
make
it's
a
bad for my
decision
memory, and then I can't remember where I put my tools
Uh-huh.
or my car parts, and
Yeah.
then I can't fix my car.
All right. So that's been your experience.
Yeah, and then so if I want my car to work, I should. No,
Personally-
my memory was never that good. My detailed memory was never great anyway. So, but it is just me, and I think it doesn't cause the kind of violence that alcohol does.
Can I have some jasmine, please?
Well, personally, absolutely. I respect somebody who chooses not to drink, smoke, or do any drugs or anything like that as a matter of personal choice, as a matter of lifestyle, who doesn't get in other people's face about it.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, I mean, I respect that level of willpower.
How about someone like myself that doesn't smoke any pot or anything, but gets in people's faces about that they should?
Well,
I have to say something that a little bit to relate my experience is like I have trouble fixing my car when I've been smoking pot, and if somebody else smokes pot, you might have trouble fixing your car.
Oh, it's the same thing if you
And-
drank a
and-
half a
and
bottle
they
of
need to-
vodka.
they need
and
to
you
know
should
that.
Yeah.
They need to know that.
If your
They need-
car's in a million pieces and then you get stoned, you're
You-
going to have trouble figuring out where all those
I would
million
never,
pieces
I would
are.
never be in that sort of state or something like that. I
You're
would
fixing
never
my car.
attempt to do.
That's where a person has
anything
to use a
unless
little
I'm
bit
sober.
of intelligence and have a little knowledge of what they're doing and stuff. Education is good, and knowing that is the important part. And so then you say, someone says, well, gee, do you want to smoke a joint? And you say, you know, I'd love to, but I've got to fix my car today, and I'll never get it finished if I start smoking now. Get me when I finish.
Yeah.
And then that's what's fun. And I used to do that in the recording studio because I used to work in recording studios, and that was very important to me. But something that I found out was that in my opinion, and through my own personal observation, when I smoked a joint before going into the recording studio, I was an idiot in the studio, and I hated being an idiot in the studio. You know, I hated being an idiot in the studio. So I would never smoke any pot before going into the studio and working on a project and stuff like that. But after sometimes of weeks or whatever of work and working on a project and a little group of songs, a song or a group of songs were finished and the project was pretty much done and the final mix was done. Everything was complete. Then one of the things I love to do was go kick back on a beanbag chair or something like that in the studio, smoke a joint, turn it up, turn the big speakers up, and play back the stuff that we had recorded, and then just listen to it. And sometimes that was all we did. We just listened to it. And sometimes in that state, I'd be listening to it, and I would realize, you know what? I wish I had done something different. I wish I had mixed it a little different. I wish I had made that trumpet a little louder or something like that. You know what I mean? And then I would maybe go back the next day and make an adjustment based on my experience of that night. But that's one of the biggest pleasures, to be able then to reap the benefit of your labors and to be able to sit down and enjoy yourself and just listen for enjoyment to the music that you've been working hard on all week, and just and ride it. It's like a big amusement ride that just goes right on out into space, and you get to ride along with it, you know. And if the music can do that, then you've been successful. Yeah. And that's what and that's the way I do it. And so there you go. Now I know that I just walked all over your conversation, but that's important to me. So
Yeah. Same here.
There is another kind of value, like if Timothy Leary, if somebody does drugs, and it has some sort of way of affecting the way he thinks, and then he writes a book,
right.
that's what I would call drug culture.
Right.
Right? If this person writes a book, then the book has value. And the value, some of the value is affected, to some extent, maybe the drugs gave the book part of that value.
You know, there's
There's drug culture.
a lot of writers from
Right
the
there.
60s. A lot of
And
writers.
it doesn't mean
from
the reader has to do drugs.
A lot of writers from the 60s and 70s, most profoundly Hunter S. Thompson, said I certainly can't recommend that people, do all kinds of drugs and stuff if you want to be a writer, but he says it certainly has worked well for me.
But there are people that it may not
Leary
work
and
well
Thompson
for at
and
all.
stuff. And
it's like, in certain jobs.
a number of
I would not
musicians.
want my doctor to go, okay, I got to smoke a joint before I operate on them because I operate better because I'm stoned.
Well, I don't know.
That I would have a hard time with. But
I tell you what, I
I doubt it. I would throw
But
the
if,
question.
but if
Maybe
someone's doing a painting and he wants to smoke
Yeah.
a joint while he's doing the painting to help him express
Yeah.
his artistic talent,
Yeah, but that's an individual sort of work of art.
Yeah.
Or I've done enough customer service jobs that I would never want to be anything but sober when dealing with
Oh
customers.
yeah. Oh yeah. Now,
But
what-
like
Yes,
some sort of
it's mostly-
menial
it's mostly
something
true in the art
back.
world.
Like I've baked a lot of bagels, and that is something that I could not be sober and do because
go back
it's-
to the history.
don't
of
give
the,
away trade secrets.
go back to the history of why marijuana is illegal. Part of the reason is because the farmers, well, not the farmers, the farmhands, the American farmhands were complaining to Congress because the Mexicans who were coming up working in the fields were smoking this strange tobacco and it made them work harder. And I've trudged 40
Well, American
miles
workers
in a
will say
day.
anything.
I've trudged 40 miles. I used to walk anywhere from 20 to 40 miles a day every day. And I'll put it this way: if it wasn't for the fact of smoking a joint, some of those times I wouldn't have been able to have started to walk, let alone walk for 20, 40 miles. Marijuana does when it comes to menial, non-thinking, to where you can just, zone
Fly on
out.
autopilot?
Yeah. It's perfect for me. I find it perfect because, like, when I'm walking, I'm thinking. I'm observant of my surroundings.
3 is too many.
I've
Yeah,
had that
it's
idea
really
about that thing about getting started. It's like the same thing with mechanics. You have a shyness about taking apart something, right? You don't want to. You know that there's something wrong that's down in there, and you don't want to take it apart. And when you're sober, you're like, I don't want to. I'll leave it there. You procrastinate
That's right.
more. I'll leave it
That's
to
right.
tomorrow. I don't want to do it right now.
That's
And
right.
for me, like half a beer does it though, and not even
Sure.
one. Half a beer will do it. I have more courage to go in and start taking the thing apart and getting it in a million pieces.
I hope that's not the
If
reason.
I
that
kick
that
my
we
courage a little
separate
bit
from
out of
the
it.
unions is because everybody's stoned going, hey, let's take apart the country to rebuild it.
That would not go
It
well.
wouldn't go over well.
That said, I just
There's-
want to say that with talking about drug culture and a lot of young people, there is an extraordinary level of irresponsibility, and there's not a real dialogue about drugs in this country.
There
Right.
isn't, and that's
Right,
why
there's
kids
the
are
problem.
trying it too young. See, I believe that before you should even think about altering your state of consciousness, you should learn what your state of consciousness is, and that's why I do agree with with age limits for drinking, because how can I function if I'm altering my brain if I've not learned to function before that? And so kids partying at 12 and 13, I'm sorry, kids, you're too young. Learn what life is. Find out what life is, and then if you find that, hey, you enjoy taking a weekend or, to party after work, that's fine. But too many kids, they find the drug more appealing than the society, than reality, and that's what causes a lot of the problem.
Well, an example that I bring up, my girlfriend was a barista at Natural Mystic back before it was Emerald Lounge for a while, and this was shortly after Smile Fest one year. One guy came in, and he was a mess. Like she could tell there's something wrong with him. He was sort of like weirdly all over the place, and he was looked kind of like, and I never saw him, but she described him as, dressed sort of like, conservative, sort of like yuppie kid who dressed himself from the mall, but he was wearing like some weird necklace and it looked completely out of place. And she got the story of what had happened to this kid. Apparently, he had gone to Smile Fest and, it's kind of like a first time just getting out there sort of thing. and had his first drug experience ever. But what it was is some of his so-called friends kept feeding him mushrooms, kept feeding him mushrooms, kept feeding him mushrooms, dared him to eat more, and he had eaten, as his first drug experience, 3/4 of an ounce of mushrooms.
Oh, jeez.
And this was days later, and the boy was not right.
Well, see, it's like when I was working in hotels as night
Yeah.
auditor. These kids, what they would do is if one of the kids was over 18, they could rent the room.
Mm-hmm.
So the 18-year-old would rent the room, and then they would come in through the back doors. And there was more than once that I'd end up having to call an ambulance because of our anti-drug campaign.
We don't explain the consequences correctly.
Well, not only that, we don't teach proper etiquette of partying. I mean, if you go there's an excellent book I recommend anybody. It's part of the apocryphal books of the Old Testament. It's called The Wisdom of Sirach. And he actually sits down and he talks to you about what it is, the properness of partying. Like he says, don't come too early. Don't leave too late. Don't stay around the bar the whole night or the food table all night. And kids stay on top of that. So what would happen is they'd get in the room, they'd be power drinking and funneling and smoking pot. And again, because some of them don't know that pot suppresses throwing up, you create a big major problem. What happens is you funnel, now you put in enough alcohol to now be toxicity. You've OD'd, and I'm now on the phone saying I need because you don't throw it up.
Yeah.
So now I'm on the phone calling an ambulance to get your tail over here.
Grab a seat. There's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one over there.
Okay.
Please.
And while you're sitting out, I'm gonna pop up and check anything real quick.
Okay. You have a bandage on your hand. You've been having a blood test or something.
No, I actually went to the emergency room.
You also have
What?
blood on your shirt.
No, that's paint, actually.
Okay, were you?
What happened? Are you okay?
I'm okay, yeah.
Did I pass you on the highway last night?
No. My arm started hurting. My left arm started hurting at work. And,
Okay.
well, when you're a large man, your left arm starts hurting. You tend to freak out a bit.
Right.
So I went to the emergency
I
room.
know I do.
What happened?
Nothing. I mean, I'm fine.
They did a blood test and they didn't find any of the enzymes that mean you're having a heart attack.
Yes.
And they let
In
you
fact,
go.
they said that I have blood pressure that some people in the waiting room would pay for. So I thought it was a rather interesting compliment.
That is an interesting one.
You had what? Blood pressure? What?
I had blood pressure that people out in the waiting room would pay to have.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Let's just
Well-
see if they would take up a collection.
Well, you can't buy somebody's blood pressure yet.
Not yet. They're going to schedule me for a stress test, just to make sure.
Jeez.
What do you think?
What really was was the $200 copay I had to pay right then and there, which I was not expecting.
Damn.
Yeah,
$200.
and that's with insurance, with good client logic insurance. So
That out there, I'm usually not the person to like wiggle my finger and tell people about lifestyle, but you might want to consider losing a little bit of weight.
I have considered
okay.
losing. Well, I
'Cause,
considered
yeah.
losing a lot of weight.
Because, we don't want you to drop dead early. We love you.
I appreciate that. Thank
No
you.
problem.
So, there's been talk of this.
That has been
Some,
a subject of apparently it was more subject discussion before I came in here, but I have
right.
heard that they were going on about that for a while, which I'm,
A lot of it was during the 420 roll, so the audience missed
Oh,
it as
okay.
well as you.
oh well.
Right.
If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Is
This
this
is
you?
King John himself.
Are you on
I
the
was-
Are you on the secession secession at YahooGroups.com?
I am on the secession at yahoo.groups.com. Yes.
Oh well, I've been talking to you on the secession at
Are you at it tomorrow?
Yeah,
Dude!
Alan Ditmore.
What are you... Well, yes.
Yeah, I argued with you about it. Well, yeah, I think it's much better if people are willing to relocate. And that these secessions are much more viable if people are willing to relocate. And if you did have a Blue Ridge secession, you need to appeal to people outside the Blue Ridge to come here to secede. But you need to select your
That's
place,
it.
and the people that are outside of that place need to relocate to that place in order to concentrate and build a majority in that place.
You can get a grant from the from the Chamber of Commerce to get because you've come up with a
right back.
plan that will get people. Are you leaving?
I've just got to use that.
Well, you
Okay.
realize then how zoning
a
would
plan
be
to
a
get
threat.
people to come to Asheville to secede. Yeah, that's
That's right. The Chamber of Commerce. That is one aspect of it. Yeah, they come here, but usually they don't want to. want people to stay here. They want
Yes,
tourists.
they want tourists, exactly.
They want people to come here and not vote here, but go away before voting.
Is this one okay? Or
It should be, yes. It should be, okay.
But however, you can see where zoning would be. If you had that strategy of attracting all the secessionists in the country to the Blue Ridge and secede here,
That sounds like a good idea. I thought we were already slightly in that process.
well, except there's other
Let me know if
other
that's too
areas
strong.
doing the same thing though.
Let me know if it's too strong.
And you'd be
I
competing
mean,
with
you can
them.
put it back, but let me know if it's too strong.
Well-
Give it a taste and say, oh, this is getting strong.
But zoning is a
I'll just-
problem because if they don't let people build houses, then all these people, all these secessionists don't have any place to live and they can't come here.
Is it getting a bit strong?
it's you can definitely taste it.
So you see how zoning would hinder such a strategy.
I am very much against zoning.
Yeah.
I think you and I agree totally on zoning.
Yeah, but this is a new reason.
But how do you feel about strong tea?
I'm okay with strong tea.
Okay, so that's
can't-
okay with you?
Yeah,
You can't attract secessionists if you have
zoning.
zoning because they
yeah.
have trouble building houses. Yeah.
Yeah, oh no, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, I've heard your arguments on zoning. You and I are in complete agreement on the whole zoning thing. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that 100%. But the problem with attracting all the secessionists to the Blue Ridge or to anywhere is I don't want all the secessionists. I don't think you want them either. I don't want the Christian Exodus people.
A bad lot they are.
Well, they don't much like me, and quite frankly, on a philosophical level, I don't much like a lot of them. That's why we're seceding.
I was hoping
That's
that
right,
we,
but they've already picked
I
their
was
place.
hoping
They've
that
already
we
picked
could
Greenville.
the Dick Clark of Mount Dungeon, Matt Howard, to read this for us, or perhaps we should make John read it. Which do you think we
But
should?
to me, that's the beauty of it.
I can read it.
Because
I'd be
the
happy to read
various
it.
secession
You
movements,
believe in it more than me, though. So
Since,
the different secession movements
can
have
let-
different philosophies,
right.
and they can pick different places.
We'll do it. Well, don't stop your tea.
I just want to point out one thing.
What's that?
All of what we're talking about, secessionism and all that, there in our current model of society will never happen.
Yes, but considering our current model society has a much staying power as a tofu bridge, I'm not too worried about that.
No, I think it's much more realistic. I think it's taking over the country through the
It goes
presidency
like this.
or in one or in revolution. It's
See what it
taking the
does,
country in
see
one
what it
piece
does like this.
that's unrealistic.
To
No,
begin.
well, that's not going to happen.
Okay, here we go. Okay, King John reading.
not king.
Reading. That's what your brother said.
I know.
Yay! Reading about. Start from the beginning. Tell us what this introduces.
Okay, well,
This
the title is Blue Ridge Autonomous Zone, a proposal for the future by John L. Robinson, Provisional Coordinator for the Blue Ridge Independence Committee.
Okay.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, and that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. From the American Declaration of Independence.
That's right.
Every single individual has the right to secede. Every American has the legacy of the American Revolution to inspire, guide, and justify their secession. Every individual of conscience has the moral obligation to throw off any government that destroys their lives, liberties, and their chances at happiness. Given this, it is the right and moral obligation of the people of the Blue Ridge Mountains to alter and abolish our ties to the United States of America and to secede from the U.S. federal government. Our region has a unique history. This is irrelevant, as every region has a unique history. Those who would base their secession upon a region's or a people's unique character would deny it to regions and peoples who do not share that unique character. Let me be clear. I believe that anyone and everyone, from Maine to Florida, from London to Bombay, has the right and moral obligation to alter and abolish their ties with any government they feel is oppressing them. My choice to make mention of the region we are in is simply a case of think globally, secede locally. We have many reasons to secede from the United States of America. The United States kills us with its insane and illegal wars, with its police shooting and tasering whenever they can get away with it, with the incompetent mismanagement of the environment it claims dominion over. The United States steals from us through propping up bad businesses and monopolizing others, through unjust taxes, and through a fraudulent fiat currency system. The United States terrorizes us by declaring peaceful activities with no victims to be heinous crimes, by creating a climate of fear and suspicion, and by slowly turning us from free individuals into slaves of the state. These are all good reasons to secede from the United States of America. Any one of these would be justification for throwing off both the national and state governments. Together, they make a very compelling case. But perhaps the best reason to secede is that we cannot freely do so. Any organization that you are not free to disassociate from without the need to uproot your life and move is not a free organization. No group can truly be said to protect your rights unless they protect your right to metaphorically take your ball and go home. Now, some common questions about secession. Is living in the U.S. really so bad? Yes. It would be worse to live in most other places, but that does not excuse how unacceptable the U.S. has become. Why don't you leave if you hate it here? Because I don't hate it here. I love this culture, these people, and this land. It is my love that drives me to secede from a government that is killing what I love. Can't we just vote the bums out? No. Politicians have become a class of predatory aristocrats, and no sifting through the scum for the least offensive gangster-in-chief will produce the change we need. No, not even Ron Paul. Don't we need the rest of America? We need the farmer in Nebraska, the scientist in California, and the writer in Alabama. We don't need the thugs and bureaucrats from any state. Besides, this empire will fall. When it does, we need to be out from under it. Don't you remember the last time someone tried to secede? Might does not make right. We are not the Confederacy, and fear is a lousy decision maker. Do you really think this could work? Yes. While nothing is certain, we have the knowledge and the resources right now to pull this off. More than that, the U.S. empire has never been more tightly stretched or more dangerous to its own citizens. If we don't start this today, we may not survive tomorrow. Besides, what better place than here? What better time than now? That's just. Want me to go continue with that?
Oh yes.
Okay.
If you would,
Okay, yeah, sure.
if you don't mind.
We got 2 more columns. All right. The Blue Ridge Autonomous Zone needs a decentralized, polycentric government, rather than the centralized corporative monopoly we currently have. The necessary functions of any government are more responsive, efficient, and innovative when individuals are allowed to choose the functions that best suit them from multiple providers. Such a system would focus on preventing real energy to real people and property, and would ignore mythical enemies abroad and harmless substances at home. Just as the governments of the past no longer meet the needs of today, the tactics of the past no longer meet the needs of the 21st century revolutionary. Opposing a government that has refined violence to a ridiculous degree with violence is in itself ridiculous. The Blue Ridge Autonomous Zone adopts 2 tactics to succeed in secession: counter-economics and the temporary autonomous zone.
Yay.
Yes, yay. Counter-economics is the study and or practice of all peaceful human action which is forbidden by the state. We must establish alternative institutions to the state-enforced monopolies we now have in place, such as law enforcement and currency. This also includes industries heavily regulated by the U.S., such as healthcare, education, and food distribution. Even if it would not be feasible to actually operate them under the U.S., they still need to be created. These institutions must be in place so that when the U.S. is critically weakened, they can assume prominence. We must also promote peaceful actions the U.S. has deemed illegal. We must stop the fear and shame the U.S. uses to keep us under control. The Temporary Autonomous Zone, or TAZ, is a socio-political tactic for creating temporary spaces that elude formal structures of control. It is insurrection through celebration. The single greatest obstacle to the Blue Ridge succeeding is not the might and ruthlessness of the United States of America. It is the inability of the average subject of the American empire to recognize their right to secede and their ability to live and thrive without the U.S. The TAZs will be a series of unmediated social interactions that will illustrate these 2 points for the populace. They will grow in size and intensity until their point of view is dominant, and we live in a free and autonomous Blue Ridge. If you're interested in more information on counter-economics, temporary autonomous zones, and the Blue Ridge Independence Committee, please contact us at Blue Ridge Independence Committee, care of John L. Robinson, Provisional Coordinator, at P.O. Box 8104, Asheville, North Carolina 28787.
And so, but you will be running for king, is that right?
I will not be running for king.
Oh, you won't be running for king. Okay,
I have no
that was only your brother
I just thought of
joking
something.
with you.
I just thought of something about the landlocked problem, a way to solve it.
What's
You
that?
did.
Well, we were just talking about Christian Exodus in South Carolina. If Christian Exodus did take South Carolina, then then the Blue Ridge would border two countries, the rest of the United States and Christian Exodus land.
And once this gets off the ground, the next thing I'm writing...
and that would, and then we wouldn't be landlocked.
Exactly. And the next thing I'm writing after this, after I get a few more of these things put out and the spelling corrected, I'm going to be doing some letters to the newspapers in Cherokee County. Because if the Lakota can do it, I don't see any reason why the Cherokee wouldn't want to do it either.
Okay, something else I was wondering now, even beyond what we've just done, and now I know I need to change some camera angles and stuff like that. But beyond what we've just done, I was also wondering if you would be interested in reading it yet again, in entirely or in part, and expounding upon. Do any little explanations and thoughts?
Oh, sure.
Discussing sections. Hey, will you come in?
Hey.
Hey.
Come on in. You can have my seat.
All right, here you go.
And I got stuff I still have to get done.
The monk has probably some editing or something he can do, and he'll put a clean cup there for you. And
Sure, it's a sausage casing.
will that be okay?
Yeah,
How you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing fine. How's everybody doing?
We're all fired up with radicalism.
Well, yes.
Good.
I have this image of 150 years from now, millions of people dying in the name of Robinsonism.
Robinsonism.
What?
There you
That
go.
Okay,
guy
I'm not going to be able to get that
gets on
smile off my face for the next 3 hours. Thanks a lot.
That guy on TV?
No, me.
All right.
But what would you like to have expounded upon? Oh, I mean, you wanted to like do a thing.
Oh, I wasn't going to choose the section. I wanted you or
Alex
the
macho.
group to make the choices
Letting
on
it go for a while.
Okay, yeah,
on
I'd
that.
love to do that.
Very
on
macho.
that
you.
episode. You know, that
Naked,
you know
just-
what I'm trying to say on that.
I was actually going to make that episode of Pleasure Saucer, just me doing an exposition of that.
Oh, well, am I stealing your thunder?
No. I can do both.
actually, your spot's going to come up in our final roll at the end of the show
Cool.
today.
But
If all my editing worked right, we'll see.
I'll be very interested to find out.
Yeah,
But and I'd love to do a special thing about that. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
This, John has written up this thing here that says Blue Ridge Autonomous Zone, and it says a proposal for the future by John L. Robinson, provisional coordinator, Blue Ridge Independence Committee, and then when he gave it to me, his brother said, I read it and I said John Robinson. He says King John Robinson. So I penciled in King there. So
There is a
we think-
current within anarchy and secessionism that says it's better to have a king than a democracy, because at least with a king you only have to worry about one wacko. With a democracy, you got 500 wackos elected and the majority of wackos electing them.
That's true. That I can see that, and that with a king, you whack off his head and you're done with him.
Yeah. It does simplify things.
Yeah,
You
but
know
that's kind of like being smarter than the
do you know
average
what-
bear.
Do you know what I saw on TV last night?
Oh, God.
I saw someone who was here help me say what I saw. Marie Antoinette,
Oh.
a movie about Marie Antoinette.
Is that the new one?
I guess it
Yeah.
was, and
Apparently, she improved a great deal later on, but it was too late.
yeah, she was sweet, and her husband was sweet too. I thought
They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
they really
And
were.
probably not all
Yeah.
that bright to begin with.
Well, it kind of
And
showed that
therefore
too.
completely unqualified to deal with the crises they were faced with.
Well, when they crowned him, and when they came to him with the news that his father was dead, he fell to his knees and he said, "God help us, we are too young to reign."
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, if
right he
it's-
was.
If in
Yeah.
fact
You know.
it was an authentic representation of what actually happened, it was
I
kind of
find it
sad.
interesting that he immediately went to we as soon as they told him.
Well, that would be the royal we, but the thing is that
Well, him and Marie.
what I'm trying to get to, I'm
Marie,
trying to tell you that they had tea. At one point, they had tea, and she says, "Oh, we've been sent tea from the Emperor of China has sent us this," and they bring out like one similar affair to that, and they had hot water in it, and they tossed in. One of these, and she says it's jasmine, and they're all looking at it, watching, and they're like, ooh, and they're drinking, and they're going, oh, it's wonderful. Did you
I missed that.
you didn't see the movie, or you did?
I saw the movie. It was the one that came out a couple years ago
Yeah.
with all the
Yes.
great costuming.
Oh yeah,
Like the
great.
microphone
Yes,
there.
absolutely. Had to be the same movie.
Yeah,
Great
Yeah,
costume.
great costuming.
I read
Visually, it was great.
Well, a couple of years ago, you might not have noticed. You know what I
I
mean?
would not have noticed, but I did. I bought a whole bag of it.
I read a book about this.
You
because-
you said you got some of the old ones.
Yeah, that-
oh, you brought it.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, wonderful. We'll put one of these in here and put more water in. I'm sorry.
I read a book a while ago that was sick of a phone book about the French Revolution.
Yes.
And it was interesting, according to the guy who wrote it, the reason that there was this revolution was not that the king was this old reactionary and he was standing in the way of the people. He was too much of a liberal. He was too much of a progressive. He was trying to improve everything. And to do that, he had to tax everybody. Basically, he, well, I'm not going to say he was a socialist, but he tried to do too much and he upset the normal lives of the average citizen, so they got very angry at him for that.
Whoops.
I wish we could
I think-
off somebody's heads now.
To some extent,
No,
maybe
no.
I'm speaking for myself in terms of relocation. That the Blue Ridge has a unique culture and values, but I have understood from the beginning that I really don't share those values, and that I'm better off seceding in a place like Nevada, out further west. And
And it may
But
indeed...
let me ask you a question.
so I'm better off relocating.
Are you not a landowner here?
Yeah.
And this land not been in your family for some time?
Yes.
And are you ready to give all that up?
I'm ready to sell it for a good price with which to buy another farm and settle out west.
Too late.
No, it's not quite too late.
Well, it's getting there.
This area, yeah,
Too late in what regard?
I might be
Getting
too
a good
late.
price.
I might be too late if the surveyor never shows up. But,
Oh, okay.
Well, you know
But,
what? I don't think getting a
I
good
don't
price
think I'm
around here is the same as getting a good price in other places.
Hmm.
Because consistently, rules that apply to other places don't apply in Asheville.
That's
Asheville is
true
still a very
on
desirable
many
place
levels.
to move to.
and the
And
you know
I don't
what?
think the real estate, the way the real estate market is, I don't think it's gonna hit here the way it's hitting other places.
The
Some
same was very
people-
much true of the Israeli settlements. That they kept, instead of selling their houses to the
The first
Palestinians,
one.
they would kept tearing them down.
Okay.
And it's like they could have sold their
It's
houses
the
and
big-
got
it's the big-
money
it's the
with
big
which to
red
buy
road.
another
It's-
house
it's
in
wet.
Israel.
Yeah.
And all this resettlement could be orderly and peaceful. And India and
Where's the fun
Pakistan had
in
problems
that?
too.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It is being
And-
run
and
very
non-destructive.
If there is mass resettlement in this country, period, there will be blood.
All right.
Well,
Period.
I don't think there has to be.
y'all
I
talked
think,
about
I think it's
the
already taking
primary
place.
You can't-
A, it's
well-
already happening, and B, it's
Oh,
not
look,
bloody. People are
I'm
selling
very interested to
properties,
see what
buying
you-
other
there are
properties,
people
they're
that
getting
move-
tax
Do you have
deductions when they
something to
do
say
it.
about the primary?
I've been hearing some increasingly higher up the media food chain stories about vote fraud in New Hampshire.
I have, you know what? I've people almost immediately. Some people have, started buying into conspiracy theories, thinking that Diebold is backing Hillary now.
Well, I don't know about that, but what I do know is that reportedly there was this family that, and she knows that everyone in the family voted for Ron Paul. So when she went back to look at the results, and they could view the individual items, who voted for Ron Paul in that district, 0 people voted for Ron Paul.
Interesting.
So what happened to at least those 5 votes?
well,
Okay, let's
what
see.
happened to the polling?
Oh, well.
Because at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, Obama was still 6 or 7 points ahead of Hillary in the polling and the exit polling, and all of the major polling had Obama winning.
Well,
And then I was like, I'm tired of this. I'm going to bed because I'm watching the 2-point spread between Obama and Hillary.
Right. Well,
And so I went to sleep, and then I woke up at like 4 in the morning and flicked on, and it's
And how
like,
many
Hillary
points?
wins.
How many points?
Hillary won.
By how many points spread?
I don't remember
It was
what
close.
the spread was.
Was
but
it- I mean,
it was
two-
within the
it was a
2-point
2 or 3
potential
point
margin of error.
spread. But it certainly wasn't the 6 or 7 point spread with Obama winning that everybody was predicting.
Right.
So what's up with that? And then
there is a theory about that. There's a story. Evidently, New Hampshire people, according to the story, were intentionally lying to the pollsters.
well,
just to
if
throw them off.
I had pollsters calling me every day, day in and day out, and I didn't have caller ID and I didn't know I couldn't block them, I'd lie. I'd tell them anything. I would definitely lie.
Would you know?
Yeah, absolutely. just to be mean at that point.
But then as we've noticed, you've got a mean streaking.
I do have a mean streak. I do. It's true.
You know, there's already been mass relocation in the United States, and you
I
know
don't
where
mean
it's
to be-
most evident?
I don't mean to
that?
be rude,
I
but
have some articles that have demonstrated the mass relocation, the political
very bad
relocation.
mean
But,
streak.
What's that?
but it's most evident in the gay towns, San Francisco, because you know, San Francisco and Provincetown, Massachusetts, we're not born majority gay. The
Right.
majority gay, or San Francisco, I don't think it's the majority,
Yeah.
but
Well,
gay
San Francisco,
populations
yeah,
in San Francisco and Provincetown
Yeah.
moved
Considerable,
there
I don't think
after,
majority,
after
though.
selling Provincetown, I think is, and San Francisco was. But
One thing about
but they moved there. It's the clearest example is the gay movement and the gay and how much they've gained on the local and to some extent the state level.
Well-
They've moved from all over the country to these places. They've gained political power in these places, and now we have San Francisco, we have the Gay Bay, and we have Provincetown, Massachusetts, and we have some other towns where gays are very influential, and
Well, okay,
and
let me
they
put it this
move
way.
there because they're born everywhere.
I think that depends on how you define relocation. I mean, because quite honestly, all of what we're talking about are things that did not start out planned, that did not start out as coordinated. So one of these things that just sort of happen, like, you know, culture just takes on a spin and kind of something acquires momentum of its own. In terms of planning out a mass relocation, I trust none of that.
well, yeah, no, and
I trust none of that.
I don't think it was
No, I think
proposed.
I
they'll
think
pull
gay
the train
communities
over in an
plan to
unscheduled
I don't
stop,
think-
and they'll offer everybody showers on the way.
I think gay communities did plan to move to Provincetown. I don't think they just ended up in Provincetown.
Well,
I
I'm
mean, a
saying
few of them did,
whatever
but
got the
more of them
momentum
saw
towards.
that gays are making
Well,
headway in
it was
Provincetown,
it
and so
was
they
less
moved to
a
Provincetown.
it was less a mass trek and more like a couple influential homosexuals in San Francisco going, the rice here is great, come on down.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, whatever, I mean, at this particular point, you know, places that are known as gay meccas, obviously, people who are gay deliberately move there. But I
Same-
think whatever first turns a place into a gay mecca is one of those things that, you know, I don't think is you can put a finger on. I think just one of
I
those
think
things
he's
that
onto
kind of
something with the
happens.
rice.
Well,
you know,
it's
same
a
with,
butterfly flies
same
into
with
the
New
flag of
Orleans,
China.
that-
Well,
That's like,
the
it
rice
doesn't
there,
matter
that's
what
true,
the
but
first
also there's a
crystallization
broad
was.
spectrum of cultures there.
true.
So that's what I
And-
think is you get larger meccas with a large spectrum of different cultures, and they have so much going on. They can't be paying attention to these gay people moving in or whoever's moving, or these Italians or these Vietnamese.
Right, there's
because
just-
it's such a melting pot anyway.
Right,
They
there's
just
just-
don't notice, and then people
There's so
slide
many-
right in there because they